Hey everybody, and welcome to the newest show on Modus, Conspiracy Theories and Chill with Shawn. In this show, we'll briefly explore a few of my favorite conspiracy theories. I love conspiracy theories. My favorite pastime is to put on YouTube and a good conspiracy theory documentary. I don't have to agree with them either. I like to look at different angles and points of views. I can listen to others' theories without judgment. I mean, hell, I also love Stephen King's The Dark Tower fantasy series. Even though Midworld isn't a real place and the characters aren't real people, I still enjoy it, and that alone gives it value. Plus, the term conspiracy theory itself is just a made up term by the CIA to discredit critical thinkers. Look it up on Google. Shawn wouldn't lie to you, it's a fact. In the end, it honestly doesn't matter what others think of you anyway. Don't let others' opinions of you stop you from being you. That being said, I love conspiracy theories, and if you do too, let's have a little fun. Let's start our little show here, Conspiracy Theories and Chill with Shawn. I'm going to kick off today's show with a favorite conspiracy of mine, the moon landing. In the official version of the NASA story, in any textbook country, you will find that we supposedly landed on the moon 7 times in the late 60s, early 70s. We went 7 times, and then we never went back. We were just done with it. We had done everything you can do up there anyway. We played golf, we jumped slowly, we collected rocks, we drove around in a really cool buggy on the surface, and then we stood and looked out at black nothingness for as long as you possibly can. So the moon was tapped out, honestly. And we just never went back. NASA from that point on focused on more important and interesting stuff like telescopes and satellites and research and stuff, if you believe their story, which I do not. Here's a short video explaining some of the problems with the official NASA moon landing story, just so you can see why.
Number 10. Lights Camera Hoax. In light of the new Star Wars movie, let's go out of our way to explore a little space, the final frontier. Though America did claim to have done some of this exploring by land on the moon in 1969, there is intense deliberation as to the legitimacy of this event. Maybe after these reasons you'll start thinking, that's no moon. Anyways, in space, at least this solar system, there's only one light source available, the sun. Using basic lighting knowledge, all the shadows should fall in the same direction since all the light comes from one direction. Basic stuff. But to the misfortune of NASA, in photos it's really clear that the shadows go in different directions, offering a strong case against the truth of the moon landing. It is very plausible that there were actually multiple different lights showing that there was more to this event than what they've been telling us. Explanations include hills on the moon's surface causing reflections of light, making discrepancies in the shadows. Despite that, the evidence is extremely controversial. It just doesn't make sense that the shadows would be that different. But I mean, I'm no scientist. Number 9. That's rad. To reach the moon, first you have to pass through the Van Allen radiation belt. Doesn't sound as exciting as a meteor belt, but it's hundreds of times more dangerous. To travel through it, it would take a serious amount of armor plating to withstand lethal doses of radiation. Radaways don't exist here, so this is a big problem. NASA says that they've had enough aluminum plating coating in the interior and exterior of the ship to provide adequate protection to the astronauts. Plus, they say that the time spent there was so short that the radiation could not possibly have accumulated enough to kill them. Well, after spending billions of dollars trying to put people on the moon, you would think that they would have thought this through already. They must have some top secret materials we still don't know about. Number 8. Like a waving flag. Anyways, one of the first photos of the moon landing showed a puzzling image to viewers. People noticed that the American flag rippled as if there was a breeze. This is problematic since there should be no wind on the moon to cause this effect. This is one of the initial arguments for a fake moon landing. NASA has gone to disprove this claim by responding that the flag was stored in a tube which rippled from the force of being put down into the floor by the astronaut. While air does not exist on the moon, action and reaction still works like normal. This seems to be a plausible explanation, but I mean, what would a famous American event be without a waving flag anyways? Number 7. What a sea rock. One of the most famous photos that supports the fake moon landing argument is the sea rock. The photo shows a rock on the ground with a perfectly symmetrical C engraved in its side. It's likely that people assumed that this was a label for a prop rock they used in the filming and that they forgot to put it down in the correct way. It's very difficult for something like this to happen in nature, so it provides some pretty substantial evidence for monkey business. Even so, taking into account that the film was developed manually and not digitally stored back then, it's possible that there was just an error in the development of the film with someone's hair falling on it or someone intentionally writing on it as a joke. This was a flub by the prop crew though. I wonder where the guy's working now. Number 6. UFO. Reflections can often reveal things that don't want to be seen. That's why spies and intelligence officers often recommend checking your 6 by looking in mirrors of cars and store windows while you're trying to be stealthy. But I'm going off topic now. Anyways, in one of the photos, the reflection shows an object suspended in the sky that has never been explained. It's terrible quality as per usual, but people compare it to a studio light. Nothing on the lunar lander really resembles this object also, so we really don't know what it is. It's probably aliens though, right? Come on, let's be real here. Number 5. Crater face. Jets are powerful machines, and being so, they should leave an impact crater on the surface when they touch down, right? As the moon is supposed to be layered with dust, there should be some telling of a landing. However, photos of the landing do not show any visible crater underneath the landing module. This convinces people that it was simply placed on the surface. NASA retorts that it simply would not make sense that they fired a module with astronauts on it fast enough to create an impact crater. Makes sense to me too. Instead, they say that the module was used with significantly lower thrust than what people think, and when it landed on the solid rock surface of the moon, it would not have made sense for it to leave a substantial mark like an impact crater. After all, they want to land, not destroy the moon like the asteroid in Armageddon. Number 4. Slow-mo guys. When computers came out, people were able to analyze conspiracies in much greater detail than ever before. Just think about the JFK assassination and imagine how many times people have played that clip over and over again, so they could milk everything they could out of it. People did the same for the film from the moon landing. If you increase the speed by 2.5 times, the astronauts move exactly like they would if there's normal gravity. This is slightly suspicious to people, but they continue to pick at the authenticity by pointing out possible hidden wires and cables that could have helped them jump great heights. Photos are incredibly hazy and low quality. Few people actually believe these theories, but you're welcome to sit there with a magnifying glass going frame by frame if you want to. Number 3. No Star Wars. There's really not that much in space if you think about it. I mean, it is called space. And between most objects is a ridiculous distance regular people can't even begin to comprehend. You know what space is full of all the time though? Stars. Guess what we did not see in any of the photos from the moon? Yep, you guessed it, stars. There's a distinct lack of light sources from stars in pretty much all the photos from the trip. It's a little eerie that the vast expanses of space are completely black and empty. There's no atmosphere to cloud stars, so theoretically it should be very easy to spot the bright lights from other stars. But the pictures remain vacant. It is theorized that NASA left the stars out because it would be impossible to map them out accurately, and keen observers would quickly be able to discern the authenticity. While NASA claims this is due to low quality photos, their defense lacks credibility. Is Twinkle Twinkle Little Star a conspiracy? Don't ruin our childhood, NASA. Number 2. Got you in my sights. To assist the astronauts in taking photos, there were crosshairs included to help them aim, which were imprinted along with each of the photos. Interestingly enough, some of the photos show the crosshairs being covered by objects, as if they were edited in afterwards. This phenomenon did not happen once, but rather multiple times. It seems like a terrible Photoshop job to me. It really does not make sense, but it occurs in a photo of the American flag, and one more time in a photo of the Land Rover. Number 1. Deja vu. Despite labeling two photos as being taken many miles apart, two photos from the moon landing show the exact same background behind it. Their claim of distance is an outright lie or mistake. That's up for you to decide though. NASA scientists defend this attack by claiming that the small size of the moon makes distances appear much closer than on Earth. Regardless of this, the backgrounds are definitely exact replicas of each other. Why would they label these photos incorrectly and make it seem like they went farther than they actually did? Remember in Transformers where they turned off the tapes and went to the dark side of the moon? If they did actually land there and this indeed wasn't fake, maybe they really were hiding something.
Pretty interesting stuff, right? I mean, there's a lot of problems with it. I think it's rather convincing evidence as well. I don't think we could go to the moon then, and I don't think we can do it today. You know, the footage is at least fake. I think we can all agree on that, or I hope we can. And maybe there was a reason they had to fake it. Maybe they couldn't do it, as I said. Maybe they couldn't do it, and they had to fake the footage for whatever reason. Solar flares, radiations, etc. They had to hire Stanley Kubrick, and they had to fake the footage. But it's fake. And you know what? I don't believe there's... I think a lot of what NASA does is fake. And that's a big problem. You know, all the pictures that you have of Earth are fake. They're all paintings. They're all composites. And NASA openly admits that. Now, you can take a picture of Jupiter, but you can't turn that telescope around and take a picture of Earth. A real picture. They say they can't. They say they have to be composites. Now, why is that? 25,000 something or 250,000 satellites and all these expensive telescopes, and you can't take a picture of Earth? Now, see, it's things like that that make people have a problem with NASA. Now, I don't believe there's and I don't even believe there's a rover on Mars. You're going to tell me that I can't make a cell phone call from where I'm sitting right now, but we're talking to a rover on Mars and driving it around taking pictures? You know, it's just bullshit. I think NASA is a black hole for money at the very least, and at the very worst, a satanic Luciferian organization that is also a black hole for money, but operates in deceit to kill God. And since I've established that I believe NASA lies, and I believe NASA is just a bunch of liars and that's all they do, a lot of people believe that. And that gives them, a lot of reasons to believe the next thing we're going to talk about. So prepare to get triggered. We're going to talk about flat Earth. Now, before you just start mocking these people and laughing or cutting off the video, why don't you at least take a short look at this really quick video explaining their beliefs and why they feel the way that they feel.
No curvature. The horizon always appears perfectly flat 360 degrees around the observer, regardless of altitude. All amateur balloon, rocket, plane and drone footage show a completely flat horizon over 20 plus miles high. Only NASA and other fake government space agencies show curvature in their fake CGI photos and videos. No compensation for curvature by pilots. If the Earth were truly a sphere 25,000 miles in circumference, airplane pilots would have to constantly correct their altitudes downwards so as to not fly straight off into outer space. A pilot wishing to simply maintain their altitude at a typical cruising speed of 500 miles per hour would have to constantly dip their nose downwards and descend 2,777 feet over half a mile every minute. Otherwise, without compensation, in 1 hour's time the pilot would find themselves 31.5 miles higher than expected. Earth doesn't spin. If Earth were truly constantly spinning eastwards at over 1,000 miles per hour, during the Red Bull Stratosphere dive, Felix Baumgartner, spending 3 hours ascending over New Mexico, should have landed 2,500 miles west into the Pacific Ocean, but instead landed a few dozen miles east of the takeoff point. Not to mention, planes would have a tough time landing on a spinning ball. Large bodies of water can't curve. The natural physics of water is to find and maintain its level. If Earth were a giant sphere tilted, wobbling and hurtling through infinite space, consistently level surfaces would not exist here. But since Earth is in fact an extended flat plane, this fundamental physical property of fluids finding and remaining level is consistent with experience and common sense. No account for curvature by architects and engineers. Surveyors, engineers and architects are never required to factor the supposed curvature of the Earth into their projects. Canals, Railways, bridges and tunnels, for example, are always cut and laid horizontally, often over hundreds of miles without allowance for curvature. There is no motion. NASA and modern astronomy say the Earth is a giant ball tilted back, wobbling and spinning 1,000 miles per hour around its central axis, traveling 67,000 miles per hour circles around the Sun, spiraling 500,000 miles per hour around the Milky Way, while the entire galaxy rockets a ridiculous 670 million miles per hour through the universe, with all of these motions originating from an assumed cosmogenic explosion 14 billion years ago. That's a grand total of 670,568,000 miles per hour in several different directions. We're all supposedly speeding along at simultaneously, yet no one has ever seen, felt, heard, measured, or proven a single one of these motions to exist whatsoever. Same constellations. Throughout thousands of years, the same constellations have remained fixed in their same patterns without moving out of position whatsoever. If the Earth were a big ball spinning around a bigger sun, spinning around a bigger galaxy, shooting off from the biggest bang as NASA claims, it is impossible that the constellations would remain so fixed. Based on their model, we should, in fact, have an entirely different night sky every single night and never repeat exactly the same star pattern twice. ISS hologram. NASA claims one can observe the International Space Station pass by overhead, proving its existence. Yet analysis of the ISS seen through zoom cameras proves it to be some type of hologram or drone, not a physical floating space base. As you can see in the video, ISS hoax. When zooming in and out, the ISS dramatically and impossibly changes shape and color, displaying a prismatic rainbow effect until coming into focus, much like an old television turning on and off. No pictures or videos of the Earth. NASA claims there are upwards of 20,000 satellites floating around Earth's upper atmosphere, sending us radio, television, GPS, and taking pictures of the planet. All these supposed satellite pictures, however, are admittedly composite images, edited in Photoshop. They claim to receive ribbons of imagery from satellites which must then be spliced together to create composite images of the Earth, all of which are clearly CGI and not photographs. If Earth were truly a ball with 20,000 satellites orbiting, it would be a simple matter to mount a camera and take some real photographs. The fact that no real satellite photographs of the supposed ball Earth exist in favor of NASA's ribbons of composite CG imagery is further proof we are not being told the truth. NASA lies. NASA and other space agencies have been caught repeatedly, with their bubbles forming and floating off in their official outer space footage. Astronauts have also been caught using scuba space gear, kicking their legs to move, and astronaut Luca Parmitano even almost drowned when water started filling up his helmet while allegedly on a spacewalk. It is admitted that astronauts train for their spacewalks in underwater training facilities like NASA's Neutral Buoyancy Lab. But what is obvious from their space bubbles and other blunders is that all official spacewalk footage is also fake and filmed underwater. Analysis of many interior videos from the International Space Station have shown the use of camera tricks such as green screens, harnesses, and even wildly permed hair to achieve a zero-gravity type effect. Footage of astronauts seemingly floating in the zero gravity of their space station is indistinguishable from Vomit Comet zero-G airplane footage. By flying parabolic maneuvers, this zero-G floating effect can be achieved over and over again, then edited together. For longer uncut shots, NASA has been caught using simple wires and green screen technology. NASA is full of shit, and the Earth is flat and stationary.
Now see, there's a lot of compelling stuff there. And if you guys would just answer some of these questions for these people instead of mocking them, maybe you could convince them that the Earth is a globe. Or maybe the reason why you won't do that is because you can't even challenge your beliefs enough to understand their side of the argument enough to have a real debate, to have a real discussion, because it would fuck up your cognitive dissonance. And if you actually took any of these points seriously, it might screw up your entire worldview. I'm not saying what I believe. I'm just saying, why get so pissed at people that believe the Earth is flat? You can disagree with them. It's okay. It doesn't make them a bad person. You know, I'm not saying what I believe and what I don't believe. I'm just saying that it can make sense. I don't believe anything until I see it with my own eyes, and I've never been to space. And all NASA has shown me is bullshit pictures. So until I've seen it, I don't believe it. So I don't know if the Earth is flat or not. I know the Bible says it is. And I know that my eyes say it is. NASA says it isn't. Science says it isn't. So I don't know. I'm not, until I've seen it, I'm not sure. But why mock these people? Why get so mad? The things I see on Facebook and the way I see these people treated, it's ridiculous. And that tells you a lot right there, because why would you treat them that way? Why instantly get triggered and start yelling and screaming and calling them stupid? And you won't even listen to them. I've defended flat earthers and never said I was a flat earther. Just that, you know, why are we picking on this person? And they'll treat you like you're stupid. No matter what you write, they act like you wrote something ridiculously dumb, even though you didn't. Even though what you wrote makes sense. And you never even said you believe the Earth is flat. They just assume. They're instantly triggered the minute you defend it. You should wonder about that. Anything that makes you that defensive, you should question it. You know you're programmed in other ways. You know your media is fake. You know you've been indoctrinated in certain ways to believe in this system. You know, why limit the lies? Why would Satan limit his lies? This world is ran by Satan, the great deceiver. The Bible tells you that. And I believe, even if you're not religious, I believe you can look around and see that the world is at least ran by evil, no matter what you want to call it. I call it Satan. So the world is ran by Satan, and Satan is a liar. So everything's a lie. How do you know you're being told the truth? How do you know Neil deGrasse Tyson is even fucking legit? You don't. You're just going off what you've been told. So quit being so mean to these people and just be open-minded. And even if you disagree with them, walk away. But I'm going to tell you, since I touched on it a little bit, I might as well go ahead and dig deeper. I'm religious. I'm a Christian. You don't have to be, but I am. And as a Christian, like I said, there is some problems in the Bible. The Bible says that the earth is flat. The Bible says that the earth is covered by a dome firmament, created by God, all of that. You've heard it, right? And it could be stories. It could be poetry. But it could also be true. And I'm open to both sides. I'm not arrogant enough to think that I understand anything. I only have 5 senses. I experience a fraction of my reality. How arrogant is it to believe that you understand everything? You do not. You're not even capable of it. So stop acting like you do. Stop acting like an expert on every little subject. But like I said, I'm religious. And I'm going to touch on what I believe aliens really are. And because I don't believe that they're from outer space. You know, I don't think that what we call aliens are actually aliens. I think that they're demons. I think that they're demons and fallen angels. And I'm going to explain a little bit right here why I believe that. So let me show you this short video explaining why I feel that way.
Jubilees is not the only ancient text that gives a different story of creation. There is a forbidden book, lost for centuries, that includes fallen angels, bloodthirsty giants, and a warning to all humanity. It is an ancient writing filled with divine secrets, dreams, and visions. A tour of heaven and hell, guided by the angel Uriel. The Book of Enoch is named for the man who the Holy Bible says walked with God.
Enoch walked with God after the birth of Methuselah 300 years, and had other sons and daughters. Thus all the days of Enoch were 365 years. Enoch walked with God, then he was no more because God took him.
The book of Enoch is named for a man who's mentioned in one sentence in the book of Genesis. We only know one sentence worth of information about him. And yet, somebody stopped, paused on that name, and thought, Enoch. If he was taken up into heaven, what might he have seen?
It is a daunting manuscript. 5 volumes containing 108 chapters. For many ancient Christians, the Book of Enoch was essential. Yet it was banned from the Christian Bible. The Book of Enoch begins with a warning to all humanity that a divine judgment has been rendered and a sentence will be imposed. God tells Enoch that all life on earth will be destroyed in a violent flood, and, as with the story in Genesis, God blames this evil on the sons of God, angels who lusted after the daughters of men.
These angels are sometimes referred to as watchers. They keep constant watch. And they decide one day, about 200 of them, that they're going to descend to the earth. They would like to very much make contact with these mortal women.
The Book of Enoch may have been an attempt to expand on the mysterious giants, the sons of God, and the daughters of the earth, spoken of in Genesis.
Anytime you read the book of Genesis, there are all kinds of unanswered questions. Suddenly, there is this quick few verses at the beginning of the flood story about giants in the land that come from the sons of God mixing with daughters of the earth. And you stop and think, wait a minute, what's this all about? It's like it went by too fast. And you want to grab it and say, wait a minute, what was this?
The Book of Enoch offers a disturbing vision of the fall of the angels who lust after earthly women.
And they began to go into them, and to defile themselves with them, and they taught them charms and enchantments. And they became pregnant, and they bare great giants whose height was 3,000 ells. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind.
That these angels have crossed over this boundary that they shouldn't have. They were spiritual beings, and they were to remain as such. When they decided to descend upon earth, this unleashed upon the earth all sorts of problems. Not only these giants who are bloodthirsty and violent, but also these angels went on to teach humankind a variety of forbidden crafts. They also taught human beings how to make weapons of war.
Now, the good angels, the ones not tempted by these beautiful women, go to God and say, you know, there's a lot of bloodshed caused by these bad angels. At which point God says we need to bind Azazel, the sort of lead fallen angel, to bind him and to then cast him into a pit. We might think of this as, how do we take care of nuclear waste in the 21st century? You take it out to a part of the world where no one lives, and you bury it as deep as you can. For this community, the angel was like that sort of nuclear waste, dangerous.
After the rebel angels are cast into the depths of the earth, Enoch has a dream vision. The lead angel, Azazel, begs Enoch to plead their case before God, to petition the Almighty to release them from the depths of the earth. The request for clemency is denied.
When we look at various snips of the New Testament, Enoch seems to be in play.
Another episode tells of Uriel, a powerful angel in charge of the stars, who becomes Enoch's guide through the heavenly realms.
Uriel's name, in fact, means God is my light. And whenever he is described, frequently in relation to God, he is situated to the east of God's throne. This is very interesting. Of course, the sun rises to the east. So this gets us thinking, Uriel, a figure associated with light, perhaps associated in some way with the sun, or the stars, or the idea of these heavenly bodies making their rotations daily.
And all these Uriel, the holy angel, who is the leader of them all, showed to me, and their positions, and I wrote down their positions as he showed them to me.
With its lush descriptions of heavenly powers and the horrors that await evildoers, even angels, Enoch was one of the most popular books among the early Christians.
We know that some early Christians considered the writings of Enoch to be authoritative, to contain actual revelation from God. So, because some people thought that, some influential people thought that, the book was used as you would use other books of the Bible.
After all, Revelation appears in the New Testament. But Enoch, for reasons that I think are fairly clear, was just considered a little too strange, a little too suspicious, a little too creative, perhaps, for the tradition. Having said that, there's no doubt that it was widely read and very popular.
Yet the Book of Enoch was denied a home in the official Christian canon. This imaginative tale fell into obscurity until the late 18th century, when a Scottish explorer named James Bruce came upon this mysterious text in Aksum, a city in the Ethiopian highlands.
Travelers to Ethiopia found manuscripts of these books and brought them back to Europe. This caused quite a sensation. I'm aware of scholarly reaction to them. People were excited about having these texts that we knew about only through allusion before this time, or brief quotation.
Until the mid-20th century, the Book of Enoch was assumed to be of interest only to the very early Christians. We now know that Enoch was sacred to Ethiopian Christians all along.
Part of the reason why this probably became part of their canon is because of the mythic story of the foundation of the Ethiopian monarchy. You have Sheba, who goes to see King Solomon, and the story goes that not only does she bring gifts, she brings a little bit of something back home. She's pregnant with Solomon's son. That son is Menelik. Menelik is the first dynastic king of Ethiopia. He actually goes back and retrieves the Ark of the Covenant from Solomon because Solomon is not taking care of the kingdom properly. And the Ark rests purportedly in Aksum in Ethiopia. So when Christianity comes later in about the 4th century to Ethiopia, there's already a story there. There's already a connection to the Old Testament story. So the Book of Enoch and all these other types of books that are included within the Ethiopian canon become part and parcel of putting together this Old Testament story, this Old Testament link, with a very new Christianity that enters into the Ethiopian. They don't give up the old. They put it all together with the new and blend it together.
Large portions of the Book of Enoch also were found among the Essene literature, hidden in the caves of Qumran, as part of the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Enochic literature was very popular with the inhabitants at Qumran, at least for a while, probably at the beginning of this group's existence at this site. And how do we know it was so popular? At least 11 manuscripts of this text have been discovered. And that's quite a number, especially when we think in terms of what it costs to produce a manuscript in antiquity, in terms of not only the material required, but also the labor.
And so sometimes what people are reading and what the leadership in the church actually wants you to understand are two very different things.
Today, ancient writings not included in the Bible are being re-examined by 21st century eyes.
So hopefully that short documentary on the Book of Enoch explains why I feel the way I do about aliens and why I feel that they're demons, not aliens at all, that they're actually demons and fallen angels, and that's what they've been all along. But there will be a great deception, and the Bible speaks of this, and they will call themselves aliens. And people will embrace them. They'll pretend that they're here to help you. They are liars. And that's just what I believe. You know, that just happens to be my belief. You can have your own beliefs. I'm just telling you, when the aliens come, don't believe them. They're not here to help you. All right, guys, that has been the first episode of Conspiracy Theories and Chill with me, Shawn. Thank you guys so much for coming by. I hope you liked it. If you did, comment below so that I can get some ideas for future shows. I want to talk about the things that you want to hear about, because I want to make things that you'll like and you'll want to share and you'll want to come back and be a part of. Speaking of that, subscribe to the channel. So click like, share this video please, subscribe to the channel, and click on that little bell and you'll get notified when we put up a new video. Thanks guys, I'll see you next Monday night at 9 p.m. Central for another episode of Conspiracy Theories and Chill.